this is true, Vern. I was a little bit overwhelmed from this because I'd never timed myself before. But I wanted to find out if I had any loss of speed. I didn't feel that I did. And Don Cochran, I got him to come out to time me, and this is when I convinced myself that, I was ready to come back for another year. I still had a little bit of ways to go, but I had a lot of time before training camp in order to get it, 100% back. So I knew that the injury was 100% better.
Chuck, we talked with George Henry last week and looked back over his career. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. There have been so many highlights for you. You've made so many All-Pro teams and the most valuable player in the Super Bowl. Is there one thing that you would pinpoint as sticking out in your mind as the greatest thing you'll take from your years here?
Well, I think it's the association that I've had with the people of Dallas and my teammates, Vern. I think there's been many great games, and it's like you say, I don't think you can pinpoint any one of them. There's been the 2 great games with Green Bay. There's been my most valuable player in the Super Bowl. There's been the Super Bowl championship game, and like you say, it's just hard to pinpoint one game, but I think it's the richest feeling that I have is the support that I've gotten from the press and from the people associated with the press, from the people in business, and just the people that sit up there in the stands every week.
I still think you should have scored against Miami and New Orleans.
I will never live that down. That was the greatest move of my life. I've loved it.
Chuck, I don't want to get maudlin about this, but I must tell you, in the 5.5 years that I've been here, you're one of the greatest athletes I've ever known, first of all, but also one of the kindest people, the most gentle people I've ever met. We're going to miss you a great deal.
I'm going to miss all those flights and all those good times, Vern, and especially I'm going to miss training camp because you get very tired out there, you get beat, but you got a lot of fond memories out there, different circumstances that take place.
I could say that Dallas Tornado now is a much better and stronger team, and we're playing really like a really professional club.
You've had a problem with your ankle over the past several weeks. How's your ankle now, and are you ready to play?
No, I got my twisted ankle on last Saturday in Miami, and still it's bad, but I hope everything will be right until Sunday.
Does an injury bother you really on the field? Do you think about it?
Not only before I'm going to play, but when I'm on the field, I forgot everything except to play soccer.
What about Atlanta? They've got a pretty good team. Do you really want to beat them?
They don't have a really good team now because we completely destroyed them, on the field, and only their goalkeeper had a great day and he saved them. Otherwise we should beat them at least with 3-4 goals different.
Investigator Chili Clark was definitely not performing like Dead-Eye Dick today when he took his first shot at the Flying Bird. Chili's been with the police department 12 years, but when he was a rookie, shotguns just weren't used in police work as often as they are today. To keep policemen up-to-date weapon-wise, the shooting range offers refresher courses 3 times a year to every policeman. I asked Rangemaster Miller Robinson if he thinks all policemen need to know how to handle shotguns.
Yes, I certainly do. A policeman is a policeman, no matter if he's behind the desk or if he's anywhere else. He's subject to being right on that street at any time, and he should know and be capable of using any police weapon that might be necessary for him to use. I certainly feel that way.
Do you think most of these fellows out here can do that?
I really do. I think so. And the main thing is the interest that they show and when they do come. They really get down to business, they work at it, and they practice, and this is what it takes. They realize it's not just a game, it's a serious subject, and they work at it as such.
Unfortunately, Robinson is used to dealing with men who already know the basics, like keeping your hand below the pump, not behind it. All I came away with was a sore thumb. The bird was lucky, though. It never got a scratch. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Martha McIntyre at the police shooting range in Dallas.
Setting different penalties for different amounts of marijuana in one's possession is going to cause some confusion and problems, according to some law enforcement people. There's another problem, too, and that is that oftentimes marijuana has alfalfa or some other substance mixed with it. And how can you separate them and determine just how much is marijuana and how much the person should be charged with? Tarrant County Sheriff Lon Evans is one of those who foresees problems.
The amount, of course, the break point is 2 ounces, 4 ounces between a felony and a misdemeanor, and it looks as though we may be carrying Weight Watcher scales or postal scales out in the field with us to find out how much we have. I mean, actually, when we file a case, we've got to know how much we've got to file, because there's 3 different break points in the law where it will differ the penalty on it.
There is a plus for police officers, however. They can charge a person who has more than 4 ounces in his possession with simple possession and get the same penalty as if he was charged with selling marijuana, but without having to do the difficult undercover work. District Attorney Henry Wade says he's still studying the law, but he knows that one policy decision that has to be made is how much leniency should be considered for those who have cases pending under the old law. I asked Representative Jim Maddox, a lawyer, what he considers to be the net effect of prosecution under the new law.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any harmful effects. I think that the sentences will continue to be mainly probated sentences. I think that there will probably be fines now, whereas there were no fines before, but I think most of the offenses will be disposed of as probation. I think that the cases will be disposed of quicker and more efficiently by the county courts rather than the district courts, and we will cut down on the court congestion. I think the main effect will be that the young people that are prosecuted in this law will be suffering only misdemeanor records rather than felony records.
In talking with law enforcement people, I get the impression that simple minor possession of marijuana is not going to be pursued as vigorously when it becomes a misdemeanor as it has been in the past. The governor still has to sign that bill, but he is expected to do it, and then it becomes law on August 28th. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Well, there's something about that excitement you'll find backstage in any theater during those few moments before showtime. The atmosphere has been highly charged in the Fairmont's Regency Room these nights as the Dallas Press Club fires up for their annual Gridiron Show, a yearly chance for this bunch of working journalists to write and talk about things besides wrecks, fires, and Watergate. The Gridiron Show gives the local press a chance to unleash that sarcastic sense of humor that they have. And that humor is directed at the great and near great of our day. John Connally, for instance, is shown in this year's Gridiron as the king of the Nixon administration. And the big Texas Democrat turned Republican entertains by singing both sides now. Of course, Connally isn't the only public figure portrayed by song. A later Texas governor, Briscoe by name, sings a song of the burning issues of his administration, the pressing controversial issues like the brotherhood of man and motherhood and apple pie. And the new regional airport comes under the eyes of the Dallas Press Club. Regional Airport Director Tom Sullivan faces Travis Lynn in a mocked-up NewsAid probe, and when Travis asks Sullivan when the exact date of the new airport's opening will come, Sullivan tells him that he doesn't even know the exact date of the 4th of July. Well, I guess a little gentle nudge with a good measure of humor thrown in is good for just about anybody, even John Connally, Dolph Briscoe, or Tom Sullivan. And believe it or not, all this fooling around is for a good cause. The Press Club uses the profits from this show to set up scholarships for deserving journalism students. After all, who knows? Maybe someday one of those students will be here in Dallas, writing wisecracks for some future Gridiron affair. Well, for News 8 on the Move, this is Arch Campbell.
In Commissioner's Court, Jim Tyson declared that he was tired of waiting for recommendations, and for the benefit and protection of county employees, he thinks we need a uniform system. Commissioner John Whittington agreed with the need to act. Employees who are terminated have no recourse, and the problem is compounded by the fact, Tyson pointed out, that every county department has a different system. We could start out with a simple system, he suggested, and then amend it as we need to. The county should stop dragging its feet. The idea for a county civil service program was first discussed over 2 years ago. This morning, the county auditor's office promised to have a plan within 2 months. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judy Hanna at County Commissioner's Court.
to prosecute them when they're brought to our attention.
Thank you.
Or you're sitting in with them.
Does it help?
Trying lawsuits, yeah. Yeah, we took a little survey on it without signing anything.
Yeah.
They
Pull. Oh, I let him just a little bit too much. Be yours.
Not here today. I thought you meant overall department. He's a national.
I think that all of them really need to get this.
Yeah. And he is good. And we have we really have a bunch of them. It's on these.
Go on, Richie. Good shooting. Good shooting. Pull. Pull. Getting over him a little bit. Pull.
Tip over. There you are. Bend the left leg just a little.
Okay, go. Oh, I got my finger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lead him out. You nearly got that bird.
I really have. He really hasn't changed. He really hasn't changed. He really hasn't changed. At all. It's my world, mine and mine. All Texas hearts and mine. It's the one Frisco love and
Can you tell us, sir, the exact date of the airport's official opening?
At this point, I can't even tell you the exact date of the 4th of July.
I just like to mention this. Very strong.
That would not automatically be accepted.
We can amend it.
Well, but what I meant is, for example,
Bear County or Houston or Tarrant County or anyone else. I think this is something coming. It should be at least in their.
Well, the strength of it is compared to prior law is that conviction under this particular statute is a felony, calls for a penitentiary sentence from 2 to 5 years. Previously, they were mostly tried as misdemeanors, which are jail terms only. The weakness of the law as we see it, one thing is you have to prove specific intent, that they specifically intended to injure the child, and that's difficult sometimes.
As contrasted to just losing their temper and flying out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I wouldn't do anything if you're...
Both of you say that you go without meat a couple of days a week. and you say that some of your neighbors and friends are still doing the same thing, but do you really feel that maybe you're just yelling into a barrel and nobody's really listening?
Possibly as far as bringing prices down, but it's a lot cheaper to have scrambled eggs one night for dinner than to put a steak on the table. So maybe we're not hurting the stores, but we're saving our own pocketbooks a fair amount of money by going meatless a couple nights a week still.
Her former schoolmates at Lincoln High School called her Little Bobby, but since just up and going to New York City in the summer of '71, 98-pound Little Bobby has become Bobby Humphrey, national and soon-to-be internationally known flutist. While in New York only a week, Bobby became a player in the band of the great Duke Ellington. She has appeared on national television, including the Johnny Carson Show. Now 23-year-old Bobby is on her way to Switzerland.
Employees.
Well, Vern, I think it was the fact that the Cowboys had to work out this weekend. I didn't want to cast any reflection that I'm a holdout from that standpoint. I feel that this decision was coming. I had been leaning towards retirement, I guess, since last January and my injury, but I actually wanted to prove something to myself. I wanted to find out if my injury was going to, be well enough to play this coming year, and I think I proved that to myself, that I am capable of playing another year, but at the same time, I got a big responsibility here to my business, and I also have a responsibility to my family and my children. And I think after 13 years of many wonderful experiences and fond memories, I think I had to make this decision at this time.
Chuck, was it as tough to make the decision as you thought it might be?
Yes, it was. It was real tough. You think it all the time, but you just don't want to come out and say it. And it was a tough decision to make, but at the same time, I knew I had to make it. And, well, I did.
You say that you're satisfied that the injury would not have hampered you this year. I heard you ran a 4.940 just a couple of